I turned onto my street and saw two strangers in HOA cops vests, their hands locked on my young son. One had a grip on his shoulder so tight it twisted the fabric of his shirt. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your country in the comments below. Let's see how universal the right to protect your family truly is. My son's new bicycle, a gift I'd worked overtime to afford, lay abandoned on the asphalt. The front wheels spun in a lazy, pointless circle. His face wasn't one of anger, but of utter bewilderment. The look a child gets when the world's rules suddenly make no sense. I slammed my truck into park. Before my door was fully open, one of the men in the vests barked an order. "Stand back. This is an HOA compliance issue." "What is happening with my child?" My voice was low, a controlled rumble. "He's being held for a community regulation violation," the taller one stated, as if reading from a manual. To understand how two civilians thought they could physically detain a 10-year-old boy, you need the context. Our move to Cedar Ridge was for a fresh start. Tree-lined sidewalks, friendly neighbors, a safe place for a kid to grow up. That illusion shattered when Eleanor Vance took control of the HOA board. Eleanor decided we didn't fit her perfect picture. Our lawn wasn't manicured enough. Our cars were too old. We didn't attend her social gatherings. But the final straw for her was my son's pride and joy, that red bicycle with the silver spokes. He rode it with pure joy, a bell ringing with every successful lap around the block. Eleanor's own son watched from her pristine porch, his expression vacant. The very next day, Eleanor appeared at my door with a printed memo. She declared a new HOA directive. All recreational vehicles, including bicycles, required a permit and were subject to fair use rotation among neighborhood children. It was nonsense, a power play disguised as policy. I refused, citing our property rights in the actual HOA covenants. Her polite mask slipped. "You'll learn to cooperate," she warned. I didn't realize then how far she was willing to go. 2 days later, while I was at the hardware store, they made their move. These men, wearing vests that read HOA Cop, intercepted my son on his ride home. They demanded he surrender the bike. When a scared kid just shook his head and held on, they took hold of him. That's the scene I drove into. I took a step forward. "Remove your hands from my son, now." The one gripping him didn't budge. "Sir, obstructing a compliance action is itself a violation. You will be restrained." That's when it crystallized. This wasn't about a bicycle. It was a demonstration, a show of who held power on this street. I issued one clear final warning. You are not law enforcement. You do not touch my child. Let him go. The shorter one chuckled. The taller one actually used my boy as a shield, pulling him closer. "The child is being held pending adjudication of the equipment violation." "What violation?" My voice cracked like a whip. "Unpermitted personal transport device," the shorter one recited, gesturing to the fallen bike, "and non-compliance with a directive." That's when my son's eyes found mine, wide and swimming. "Dad," he whispered, his voice trembling, "I was just coming home." Something primal and absolute switched on inside me. I didn't think. I moved. I closed the distance in 2 strides and drove my forearm into the taller man's chest, just below his collarbone. The impact was solid, a dull thud. He gasped, his grip breaking as he staggered back. My son stumbled free. The shorter man lunged. I pivoted, deflecting his grab and landing a short, sharp punch to his solar plexus. He doubled over, choking for air. The taller one, wheezing, swung a wild fist. I caught his wrist, twisted and drove a knee into his thigh. He cried out and dropped. Neighbors' voices rose in a chorus of shock. "Call the police! He's just a boy!" My son was crying now, frozen near the curb. "Get behind the truck," I told him, my eyes never leaving the 2 men on the ground. He scrambled to safety. The shorter one, face purple with rage and lack of air, tried to rise. One more precise strike to his shoulder joint put him down for good, clutching his arm in silent agony. Then, silence. Both would-be enforcers were on the pavement, one moaning, the other utterly still. I stood between them and my son, my breath coming in controlled bursts, my hands clenched to stop their tremor. The distant wail of sirens grew closer, a promise of the real law arriving. A parent's duty isn't a choice, it's a reflex that fires before thought. If you believe in that fundamental right to protect your family, show me by liking this video, and make sure you follow Winds of Thought for the full story of what happened when the real authorities arrived. The first police cruiser arrived, lights slicing through the suburban afternoon. An officer emerged, hand on his sidearm, then froze as he processed the scene. Two men in fake uniforms, one curled fetal, the other unconscious. A boy sobbing against his father's leg, a bicycle on its side. Their urgency shifted instantly from me to them. "We need medical now," an officer radioed, kneeling by the unconscious man. Paramedics arrived swiftly. Assessments were grim. A dislocated shoulder, a potential concussion, possible cracked ribs. As they loaded the men onto stretchers, an officer gently approached my son. "Hey, champ, can you tell me what your name is?" Another turned to me, notebook out. "Sir, I need to hear exactly what occurred." I recounted the all, point by point. And then the neighbors spoke. They came forward with phone videos. Multiple angles showed the entire encounter, the seizure attempt, the physical restraint of a child, my intervention. The evidence was indisputable. Then Eleanor Vance arrived, her heels clicking a frantic rhythm on the asphalt. "This is an absolute travesty," she shrieked, pointing a finger at me. "My community officers were assaulted." An officer showed her his tablet, playing the clearest video. Her bluster evaporated into stunned silence. "I never told them to lay hands on anyone," she finally sputtered. "Ma'am, you're going to need to come with us." The metallic click of handcuffs with the loudest sound on the street. She was charged with conspiracy, false imprisonment of a minor, and fraud. In the weeks that followed, the legal machinery ground to its inevitable conclusion. Facing serious prison time, the man with the dislocated shoulder flipped. He provided everything. Text chains, emails, and Venmo payments from Eleanor marked patrol services. The evidence was a roadmap of her conspiracy. Medical reports sealed their fate. Injuries were severe. The legal charges were heavier. False imprisonment, assault, and impersonating public officials. Both men accepted plea deals for substantial state prison sentences. Eleanor fought, blaming everyone but herself. The judge saw through it. She was convicted on multiple felony counts, receiving a longer sentence than her hired hands, along with massive fines and a permanent ban from any community board. The Cedar Ridge HOA, exposed and bankrupted by lawsuits, voted to disband within the year. Tyranny always overreaches. It just needs a hard enough wall to crash into. My son still rides that red bike. The bell still rings. And every time I hear it, I'm reminded that the most powerful rule isn't written in any HOA charter. It's written in the instinct of a parent. What would you have done in my position? I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective.